they
Oops,
can
sorry about
have
that.
it all.
My Houston suddenly went down. It shut itself off, so.
Okay, you've come to the right place. Just check it. We will.
Sonia, go get him, Bernie.
Let me thank Brandon and Stephanie and Evan for their very generous introductions, and to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Now, some people get upset about this weather. Not me. I come from Vermont. We think it's kind of warm outside. Let me just take a minute to talk a little bit about our campaign and where we have come from in the last 8.5 months. When we began this campaign, people said, well, you know, Bernie Sanders combs his hair very nicely.
People are sitting, so
He's that
I'm
kind
going to
of
put my time
GQ person that we need in the White House.
He used that same line at the
But beyond that, we think he might be
presidential
a
forum
fringe
earlier this afternoon.
And they thought that I would be a fringe candidate because, you know, they were listening to what I was saying. And what I was saying is that the American people need to make a political revolution so that we create a government which works for all of us and not just a handful of billionaires.
See lots of photographers crisscrossing in front of me
Pundits were saying, well, that sounds like a pretty wild and crazy
as they get their
idea.
shots of the audience.
Imagine having a government that works for all of us and not wealthy campaign contributors. And then what we said is, you know, maybe we want to create a vibrant democracy in which we have one of the highest voter turnouts in the world, not one of the lowest. Well, that sounds like a pretty crazy idea given the fact that in the last midterm election a year ago, 63% of the American people didn't vote. 80% of young people didn't vote, so they're talking about creating a voter turnout which is one of the highest in the world. Pretty crazy idea. And here was, from the point of view of pundits, really the craziest idea. I said that I do not represent the billionaire class. I do not represent corporate America. I do not want their money, and we're not going to have a super PAC. Well, talk about crazy ideas, not having a super PAC. Didn't I understand that the only way you could raise the huge sums of money you need to compete nationally is by having a super PAC, going to millionaires, going to billionaires, going to corporate America, and begging for millions of dollars? Didn't I understand the reality of contemporary politics?
So we got super people, not super PACs. Super people, not super PACs is what he
Well, that's kind of what we concluded. It's exactly what we concluded. And we said, yeah, we'll go to the super people of this country. We'll go to ordinary people who are disgusted with the corrupt campaign finance system, who want to have an economy that works for all of us, and we're going to ask them to help us. And something happened that I, in a million years, never would have dreamed of that could be possible. And that is, in the last 8.5 months, we have received over 2.5 million individual contributions.
And no corporate contributions because he doesn't take them.
That is more individual contributions than any candidate in the history of the United States. You know, some candidates, you know, they go to these big fancy mansions They walk out with $5 million and they're boasting.
$5 million, why
this
you told me
group
no
of 10
slack.
people, we came out with $5 million, what a great night. What I am proud of is that our average campaign contribution is $27. So in one sense, we have already accomplished a significant part of what the political revolution is about, and that we are showing that we can run a serious and I believe winning national campaign without begging billionaires for money. Now, in addition to money, we have attracted hundreds of thousands of volunteers to our campaign, including many thousands here in Iowa. And let me thank all of you who are working on the campaign. And what is going on, and I think most people perceive it, is that our campaign has significant momentum. That we are drawing large crowds, that our poll numbers are doing well, and that we have a real chance to win here in Iowa. And if we win here in Iowa, and if, as I believe we can, win in New Hampshire, and I believe we're going to do very, very well in Nevada, better than a lot of people think we are in South Carolina. We do all of those things. We have a path toward victory and pulling off the biggest political upset in the modern history of the United States of America. But when we have the momentum, kind of funny things happen in the political process, and there are some people who get very, very nervous. So I'm being attacked lately for a variety of issues. And let me clarify one of them. There is mythology going around that I am not concerned about the mass killings that we have seen in this country, and about the fact that guns are falling into the hands all over this country of people who should not have them. So let me be very clear. Back in 1988, a long time ago, there was a three-way race for the United States Congress in Vermont. We only have one seat. I ran as an independent, and I am the longest serving independent in the history of the United States Congress. And I ran as an independent. And I ran against the Republican, and I ran against the Democrat. And in that campaign, the gun people there said, well, you can vote for the Democrat, vote for the Republican, don't vote for Bernie Sanders, because he is the only candidate who believes that we should not allow the sale in this country of assault weapons designed to kill people in a military way. The only candidate.
If I'm in the way, you can just come and slide over my left.
Well, I lost that election by 3 percentage points. And there are always a lot of reasons why you lose elections. But I think one of the reasons I may have lost that election is because I stood up to the gun people and I said, no, I do not think we should be selling weapons designed for military purposes to kill a whole lot of people very quickly. 2 years later, I won the election. At this particular point in my political career, I have a D- voting record from the NRA.
Which means that he voted against bills that the NRA wanted passed.
I have voted for instant background checks, and I want to see those instant background checks expanded and improved with the goal of making certain that people who should not have guns, i.e. criminals or people with mental issues and instability, I want to see those instant background checks expanded. I want to see the gun show loophole ended, which is why you all know what that loophole is. What it is that you can avoid the instant background check by going to a gun show and buying a weapon from an unlicensed dealer. You can avoid the background check, or you can get guns on the internet and not have to go through the background check. I think every gun purchased in this country should have to go through a background check. And thirdly, there is a situation now where people can legally purchase guns, go into a gun store, do the instant background check, buy guns, and then acting as straw men, what they do is they sell those guns to people who should not have guns. And I believe that should be a federal crime.
Raising it to the status of a felony.
In the gun manufacturer's liability bill that I support. There are provisions that I oppose. I think we should take another look at that legislation and get rid of those provisions which allow gun manufacturers to act irresponsibly. And what I also believe is that right now in America, we have many thousands of people who sadly are walking our streets who are in mental crisis. And I get calls in my office, as do other senators, from family members who say, I am really worried about perhaps my brother, what he may do to himself if we have a suicide crisis in this country, or what he might do to other people. I think we need a revolution in mental health in this country. So that we can provide the help to people when they need it, not 2 months later, and make sure that cost is not a factor. Now, as we move into the last few weeks of this campaign, I think it is becoming clearer to the people of Iowa and the people of the United States the differences of opinion on a number of issues that Secretary Clinton and I have. And I want to just mention 2 issues that I think are important for the people of this state and for this country. I happen to believe that when seniors in this country, millions of them, are living on Social Security income of $12,000 or $13,000 a year, I happen to believe that we should expand Social Security benefits.
My annual Social Security benefit is less than $13,000.
I have talked to too many seniors, too many disabled veterans in my state of Vermont and around this country who just cannot make it on $10,000, $11,000, $13,000 a year. And what people sometimes do when you're elderly and you don't have adequate income, they will cut their prescription drugs, pills in half. They will not heat their homes to the degree they should. They will not be able to buy the food they need to sustain their health. In the United States of America, in the year 2016, Our seniors, our disabled vets should be able to live with security and dignity. So I have introduced legislation and will make happen as president the lifting of the cap on taxable income above $250,000 a year. That will impact the 1.5% of the wealthiest people in this country. And at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, when the rich are getting richer and everybody else is getting poorer, I think that that is absolutely appropriate.
Legislates power caps. Because Maryland is...
Lifting the cap would bring in sufficient income to do a number of very important things. First, we will extend the life of Social Security for 50 years, not the 19 years that is currently the case. Secondly, under my legislation, seniors and disabled vets with an income of less than $16,000 a year would see their benefits go up by more than $1,300 a year. And further, we end the absurdity of seniors not getting any COLAs in a given year. Seniors have gotten no cost of living adjustment this year because of a very flawed formula in determining cost of living increases, and we would change that. So I would hope that when so many seniors are struggling, that Secretary Clinton would join me in saying that it is time to lift the cap for the wealthiest people in this country so that we can expand Social Security benefits for millions of seniors. And there's another issue out there where the Secretary and I disagree. I happen to believe that it is an international disgrace that the United States of America is the only, not only major country, but almost the only country in the world that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave.
That is a benefit for if you or a member of your household gets sick or has
working
a baby
class or low
adopts
income
a
moms
child,
who have a baby today be
they are
forced to
guaranteed
separate from
not
that
only time
baby
off from
in a
work with
week
no
or 2 weeks,
risk of losing
which
the
is
job,
very
but being
common because they
paid
have to go
for
back
that
to
time
work and earn enough
while
income
they're
to
off.
take care of the family. And that is why I am strongly supporting paid family and medical leave legislation in the Congress. We have 20 sponsors in the Senate. We have 114, I believe, in the House, which says that we will provide 3 months of paid family and medical leave to every family in America.
Responsible male such as father or whoever.
I look forward to seeing Secretary Clinton come on board that legislation.
He's
I think
using
one
the
of the
title
reasons
secretary
that our
because
campaign
Hillary Clinton's last
has
job
the
was
kind of
Secretary of
momentum that we
State.
have and the success that we are seeing is that we are simply talking truth to the
So the
American
governor,
people
who's a
and
former governor, still
describing the reality
is
of
governor
American
sometimes.
life and are demanding the kinds of changes that the American people want. Let me be very clear. I regard it as grotesque, immoral, and unsustainable, the kind of income and wealth inequality which exists in this country today. It is not acceptable to me, nor I think the American people, that the top 1/10 of 1%, not 1%, 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. In America today, the 20 wealthiest people in this country own more wealth than the bottom 50% of Americans, 150 million people. America today, one family, the Walton family of Walmart, owns more wealth alone than the bottom 40% of the American people. And by the way,
That's insane.
when we talk about the Walton family, the wealthiest family in America, and when we talk about Walmart, understand
Walton
that
family has
Walmart is the
foundation
major
which
beneficiary
they use to
of
front money
welfare
towards
in
the
America.
idea of education, which they do, like the for-profit so-called charter schools, the online
Isn't it
for
weird
excuses for schools like we
that
have here in Des Moines called Connections Academy.
many of the people who work at Walmart are on Medicaid, which you pay for. They're on food stamps, which you pay for. They're in government subsidized housing that you pay for because the Walton family refuses to provide the wages and benefits their workers deserve.
Bernie.
I say to the Walton family, the wealthiest family in this country, get off of welfare, start paying your workers a living wage.
That's what he means by that.
When we talk about the economy, we also have to understand what every person in this room knows. And that is that wages in America are too damn low, and we've got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. I am tired of seeing moms and dads and young people working for $8, $9, $10 an hour and falling further and further behind. We need to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour over the next several years.
Yeah, Jack, at the 15 now, like I don't need anymore.
And when we talk about equitable wages, I know that every man in this room will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity for women workers.
Several rows in front of me is doing
There is no rational reason
stands like
No
for
rational
freedom of
economic
nation
reason why
used
women
in
are making
occupying
79 cents on the
General
dollar
Assemblies.
compared to men. That's just
agree with that.
old-fashioned sexism, and together we are going to change that. Here in Iowa, you see a lot of politicians running around the state because of the unique role that Iowa plays in the democratic election process. And you're hearing many Republican candidates talk about family values.
Family values, my dupa.
They just stay up nights worrying about families. But you all know what they are talking about, what they are telling every woman in this room, every woman in the state, every woman in this country, that she should not be able to control her own body. I disagree. And what they are saying is that our gay brothers and sisters do not have the right to be married. I disagree. When we talk about the economy, I hope everybody understands that the monthly federal reports that you see about official unemployment are not quite accurate. That real unemployment, which includes those people who have given up looking for work, or people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time, means that real unemployment in this country is almost 10%. And then on top of that, we have a real tragedy with youth unemployment, such that kids who graduated high school who are white, 33% unemployed, underemployed, Latino, 36%, African American, 51%. And if anyone here thinks there is not a direct correlation between high youth unemployment and the fact that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth, you would be mistaken.
And Iowa
So
has
here
one of
it
the
is.
highest rates of
Here is
incarceration for
a
people of
radical
color
idea. Ready for a
compared
really
to
radical idea?
the population as a whole.
What about, as a nation, we invested in jobs and education for our kids rather than jails and incarceration? Jails, it is important to understand that we have a broken criminal justice system.
More like a criminal injustice system.
And that means reform of our police departments with the understanding that lethal force, killing people, is the last option, not the first option. It is an understanding that police departments, and by the way, I was a mayor for 8 years and I worked very closely with our police department. And I happen to believe that police officers all over this country, the vast majority, are trying to do a good job under very difficult circumstances. When a police officer, like any other public official, breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. I want to see police departments all over this country looking like the communities they serve. I want to see police departments demilitarized so they do not look like occupying arms.
In other words, Des Moines PD needs to give up its ammo.
I want us as a nation to take a very hard look at the war on drugs and the many lives that have been destroyed as a result of that failed policy. I want us to do away with mandatory minimum sentences. I want us to understand that substance abuse and addiction are health issues, not criminal
Planting
issues.
drugs on American culture just because of Black or Latino or, whatever, so they talk
I
to
want
meet
us
his
to
or her
develop
arrest
a
order.
pathway out of prison for those people who have served their time back into civil society, making sure they have the jobs and the education they need so they don't fall into the same environment which got them into jail in the first place. And when we talk about jobs and unemployment, it is absolutely imperative that when real unemployment is 10%, youth unemployment is off the charts. We need a massive federal jobs program to put our people back to work. We should be hiring teachers, not firing teachers. When our child care and pre-K system is literally dysfunctional, with millions of working families unable to find quality, affordable child care, we should be hiring hundreds of thousands of child care workers at good pay, with good training, to take care of the youngest people in America. But it is not only a question of creating millions of decent paying jobs, it is also a question of stopping the loss of millions of jobs because of disastrous trade policies. I voted against NAFTA, CAFTA, and permanent normal trade relations with China. I'm helping to lead the effort against the TPP.
TTIP or TPPA.
That since 2001, 15 years, we have lost 60,000 factories in America and millions of decent paying jobs. We are going to tell corporate America that they're going to start investing in this country, not just China and other low-wage countries. And when we talk about a rigged economy, when we talk about a handful of people with incredible economic and political power, when we talk about greed and recklessness and illegal behavior and arrogance, we are talking about Wall Street. Wall Street's greed and illegal behavior caused the worst economic downturn since the 1930s. Millions of people in Vermont, Iowa, all over this country lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their life savings. And Wall Street came running to the middle class of this country, and they said, bail us out, we'll be good boys.
Well, we all know where that went.
And Congress bailed them out against my vote, by the way. And now what happened, you'll be interested in knowing, that today, 3 out of the 4 largest banks are significantly bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. The 6 largest financial institutions in this country have assets equivalent to 60% of the GDP of America, about $10 trillion. 6 financial institutions. They issue 2/3 of the credit cards and about 1/3 of the mortgages. In my view, when you have a bank that is too big to fail, it is too big to exist, break them up.
They're yelling, break them up, break them up.
We need a financial system which is prepared to make affordable loans to small and medium-sized businesses so we can grow the economy and create decent jobs. We do not need to maintain a financial system dominated by Wall Street whose only interest is making as much money as they can for themselves. When we talk about what is going on in this country, it is not only a rigged economy in which the middle class continues to disappear, where we have 47 million people living in poverty, and almost all of the new wealth and income is going to the 1%. That is a huge problem that together we're going to address. But there is another equally important problem. And that is, not only do we have a rigged economy, we have a corrupt campaign finance system. As a result of the disastrous 5-4 Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, what the
And then
Supreme Court
subsequently
said,
by the
the
McCutcheon
very
decision,
wealthiest people in this
which
country, they said,
is
okay guys,
Citizens United
you
on
already
steroids.
control and own the economy. We're now going to give you the opportunity to purchase the United States government, and that is exactly what they are doing as we speak. Give you just one example, of many examples. I know that here in Iowa, you think you are having and holding the first caucus in the country, right? A few months ago in Nevada, there was another caucus held. It was called the Sheldon Adelson Caucus. Adelson is a multi-billionaire who summoned the Republican candidates for president, and he sat them down and he said, tell me what you're going to do for me. And many Republican candidates went there and said, this is what we will do for you, Mr. Adelson, you're a billionaire, we'll make you even richer. And he will decide, when he is ready, which of these candidates will get tens of millions of dollars from him. My friends, when you have Adelson and when you have the Koch brothers spending hundreds of millions of dollars to elect the candidates of their choice, you're not talking about democracy, you are talking about oligarchy, and together we are going to change that. To have a vibrant democracy where people understand that men and women put their lives on the line and some died to defend democracy. I want our young people to understand that it is their responsibility in a democracy to participate in the political process. I want anyone who has the desire, whether they're conservative, progressive, moderate, to be able to run for office without having to beg millionaires for campaign contributions. That is why I believe in public funding of elections. So I've discussed very briefly that today we have a rigged economy, rich get richer, everybody else gets poorer. We have a corrupt campaign finance system such that our political process is now dominated by billionaires. And what else? What other good news do I have for you today? Other than the fact that we're going to change all of that. Everybody knows that we live in a competitive global economy, and that if we are going to do well and have decent paying jobs, we need the best educated workforce in the world. But all of you know that there was once a time when the United States did have the best educated workforce in the world. That is not the case today. Today, unbelievably, and I really do believe that this is beyond comprehension, we have hundreds of thousands of bright, qualified young people who want to go to college, who are prepared to do college-level work, but they can't get into college for one reason, and that reason is that their families lack the money. Today, in many respects, a college degree is the equivalent of what a high school degree was 50 years ago. 50 years ago, you had a high school degree, you could go out and get a good paying job, make it into the middle class. Today, and there are exceptions of course, by and large, to make it in the middle class, many people need a college degree. And that is why I believe and will fight to make public colleges and universities tuition free.
Do what Germany did. And there may be a couple other countries that have done that.
Now the truth is, not everybody is academically inclined, not everybody wants to go to college. So we need to make sure that we have training available for the young people. Young men and women who want to become carpenters and plumbers and sheet metal workers and auto mechanics. A lot of good jobs there if we provide the training for those young men. The other issue tied to higher education is the absurdity that millions of our people, some young, some not so young, are overwhelmed with outrageously high levels of student debt. Anybody here dealing with student debt? Well, welcome to the club.
Good size portion of the crowd.
And here's what's absurd. We have people carrying student debt, paying interest rates of 6, 8, 10%, and yet 14%. And yet you can refinance your home for 3 or 4%. What we will do is allow people to refinance their students' debt at the lowest interest rates they can find. This is an unbelievable issue. I just talked to a guy yesterday. He is a young man, I'm guessing around 30, married, 2 kids. He owes $90,000 in student debt, he is paying over half of his income in repayments on that debt. And here is a young person who's working in environmental causes, working to make our country more sustainable. He is paying over 50% of his income back in student debt. That is crazy. That has got to change. When we talk about our responsibilities as human beings, as adults, as parents, as grandparents, it seems to me that we have a moral responsibility to make certain that we do everything possible to leave this planet for our children and our grandchildren in a way that is healthy and habitable. I sit on both the Environmental Committee and the Energy Committee in the U.S. Senate. And in that capacity, I have talked to scientists not only in our country, but around the world. The debate is over. The scientific community is virtually unanimous in telling us that climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, it is already causing devastating problems in our country and around the planet. And here is
for example, the UK is still experiencing storms and flooding, and this is going on for
what they are saying is that if we do not act within a short period of time, this planet, by the end of the century, will be between 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer. 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer. That means more drought, more floods, more extreme weather conditions, more acidification of the ocean, more rising sea levels, and it also means more international conflict as people fight for limited natural resources. So here is a promise that I make to you. I'm elected President of the United States. I will have our country work with China, Russia, India, and countries all over the world to aggressively transform our energy system away from fossil fuel, away from the Bakken pipeline.
Bakken pipeline is a proposed pipeline that would run from the Bakken oil fields down to Illinois to meet up with another pipeline to take the tar sands crude down to Louisiana for refining and sale overseas.
People of Iowa for being one of the leading states in this country in helping us move toward wind and biofuels. What this campaign is about is asking the American people to think big, not small. Let's not get arguing about whether we should cut education by 2% or 3%. Let's not get arguing about whether we cut this many people off of health insurance or that many people. Let's ask ourselves a very simple question. How does it happen that in our great country, we are the only major nation on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right? Yes, the Affordable Care Act has done a lot of good. I'm on the committee that helped write it, and I got some important provisions in it and voted for it. And the Affordable Care Act has done some very important things. We have ended the obscenity of pre-existing conditions. Some 17 million people now have health insurance who otherwise would not have had health insurance. But, and it's a big but, today in America, 29